Go time means we're live. Welcome everybody who's watching this via recording, and welcome to you guys who are here live. I'm so glad to have you here. This is actually one of the classes that I really enjoy teaching. We actually did it for the first time about 3 years ago, and it was very well received, and I'll tell you why. If you're here tonight, it's because we assume you have a brain, right? None of us are scarecrow. That's a good thing. And then it's one person I heard say recently, they said, I think I found what my problem is, that my left brain is not right, and whatever's my right brain, there's nothing left. So that was pretty cute. So, but anyway, so this is a real problem, guys, in our culture. That we actually are seeing a problem with brain shrinkage because we're living longer. We're actually seeing people actually having the effects of what's called age-related mental decline, and then dementia and Alzheimer's, because we're living longer. Now, the sad truth is we're often seeing these things earlier and earlier too, because of the way we live. And so I'm going to give you some things actually that if you want your brain to go really fast, we can do it. I specifically named this class How to Shrink Your Brain because it seems absurd. Why would a doctor teach you how to shrink your brain? I don't want you to. But I'm going to tell you the things that we are doing to ourselves that will make that more likely. And then if we think about what would be the opposite motion of that, then that would be the thing that would move you towards brain wholeness and being able to live a nice, long, full life, knowing who you are, where you are, who the people around you are, and actually being able to do things for yourself, which is really important. Independence, you know, I've seen it, people lose it, and it's not a great thing to have that go on. So, is your brain shrinking? In the last 5 years, when I first did this class, there's a lot of people that are in the world of sports, entertainment, politics, that we've lost, who actually have had issues with their brain. Now, Jim, you being from the sports world, you know Pat Summitt, who coached the ball. She actually had a press conference where she told people, I have early onset Alzheimer's, I'll be retiring as a coach and giving up her position. I think she was actually the dean of athletics too, and basically, you know, just stepped away from those things. We have Malcolm Young from AC/DC, Glenn Campbell, we have Charlton Heston, Ronald Reagan, and David Cassidy. All of them actually passed away from some type of thing. Now, many of those people actually had potentially some chemical use that may have contributed to it, but quite frankly, guys, that's only one part of it. There's so many other things that we can do that will keep us thinking and functioning well. And so it's been in the news more than ever before, and I think people are recognizing, certainly here in our part of the world, in Lincoln, Nebraska, we have seen lots of these single-story homes being put in, which are actually memory care units for people. They're physically fine, but they just can't be trusted to be left by themselves. So even if a couple moves into a place for like their retirement years, so they need some assisted living, one might be cared for physically, but the other person actually has to be watched even more so. That's why that kind of care is so expensive, because Alzheimer's care or dementia care is actually 24 around the clock care. All right. So why are we doing these things? Because first of all, we don't want you to waste time, money, and resources. And we know that you value good research. Everything I'm going to give you today actually has the place that we've cited it from on the bottom of the page. So you can actually go look this up for yourself online. And you want to put good information to action, and you want to enjoy the fruits of your labor. So if you want to do this, we'll get busy shrinking our brains right away. What the cognitive signs of actually losing your brain tissue are manyfold. One of them is just going to be memory loss, right? Where are the keys? One of the best things I've ever heard was a doctor who actually took care of people in geriatrics. He said, it's one thing to not remember where your keys are, but if you can't remember what keys are for, that's a whole different category of things, isn't that right? That's like you're starting to use like a sense of the perception of the world. Number two would be cognitive dysfunction, meaning you're trying to carry thoughts to their conclusion, but you can't get there. There's a thing they call executive function. It's actually a function of the forepart of your brain. That's where you actually plan your life. It's where you put things in perspective. So you wake up and say, well, today I'm going to actually have breakfast, and I actually have an appointment at 10 with the dentist. I'm supposed to actually go golfing with friends at 1. I'm going to mow the lawn at 4 and do stuff. And so that's how you do those things. And most people have a planner for that. That's great. Write it down, get it out of your brain. But they start having problems carrying those things through. Learning personality disorders. You've heard of things called sundowner syndrome, where people, as they get towards the end of the day, people with Alzheimer's, they don't remember things as well. They can get kind of edgy because they realize they're forgetting things, and they know it, but they don't deal with it well. Accelerating Alzheimer's disease, which is the most severe one. Increased healthcare costs for sure. A lot of times, if let's say part of your healthcare regimen involves actually going to the gym and you forget to do it, or when you get to the gym you don't know what to do, right? That would be a problem. Increased burden on your family, and certainly reduced quality and quantity of life. So for as many years as God gives us, we want to make sure that we're hopefully highly functional, but people who actually have these brain issues can live a nice long life, but they just don't have the quality, of course. They have to have a lot more people helping them do things. So Alzheimer's has now become the third leading cause of death, moving ahead of stroke. It used to be the top three were always heart disease, cancer, and then something like, it was either like stroke and or diabetes. And now Alzheimer's has taken that over as the third leading cause. So it's not shrinking, it's actually not going away, it's getting worse. And we want to make sure that we don't add to this by not informing you and inspiring you to do better. here's the difference between dying of heart disease and cancer versus brain shrinkage. When you actually have these illnesses that are primarily driven by the body, they are going to affect the brain, but not to the degree that the memory stuff does. The onset of these things is often very quick. If you actually have a person who suddenly finds himself clutching their chest and asking for help, I need to get to the hospital, it's onset very quickly, whereas these things take a long time to come on. Number two, these things will have moderate to severe disruptions in function and rehab. These things over here actually have major functional changes too. But the problem is that when you have brain things, you actually are sandbagging now, and people are helping you do things. They're actually telling you to put your foot in front of another like this, and they're moving it for you. Or your family's remembering theories where you're helping to feed you. And these ones here, your mind is usually intact, so you're fully aware of you and your family's friends suffering. Over here, your mind erodes away, so as we say, you don't have to worry and stress over the condition as doing to others. You are blissfully ignorant of actually how you are impacting their lives. And that's actually something we don't want to have happen, but if you want to lose your brain, that's what will happen, okay? Modern research has demonstrated that how lifestyles are definitely causing our brains to shrink. As with most health conditions, what they're saying is your genes are about 25% of the story. You can't choose your parents. You got the ones you did. They gave you the gene pool that you have. We can't change that, but we can take care of our genes in better ways, which is lifestyles. How you actually take care of the genes in your body that produce the cells that make up you. About 75% of your illnesses are going to be caused by those things, or at least contributed by those things. So let's make sure we're doing the right things to not have that happen. So let's now explore the top 10 ways if you want to shrink your brain. Here's how to do it. Number one, reduce your water intake. I brought this up here because I realized I've usually been drinking about 3 or 4 of these in a given day. And today I've only had, I think, 1. And I realized as I was talking to you guys, I'm getting so parched. So this is going to get me up to speed. So there it is. But dehydration makes your brain shrink, and it can lead to other things like headaches, dizziness, brain fog, poor concentration, and mood swings. So if you're experiencing those things, I would really strongly encourage you to, first thing is just drink some water, right? Get your hydration up, because they said even a 2% loss can actually make you less than fully functional there, which is very important. And so I've actually been increasing victim to this. The only thing I would say is, like, I'm going to be stuck now drinking 2 more of these tonight, and guess what? I'll be getting up during the middle of the night doing a fair amount too, right? So drink your water early in the day, is the say to go, but stay hydrated and don't let yourself get dehydrated, okay? Number 2, if you want to shrink your brain, start reducing your sleep. What happens in sleep is we actually always wonder, like, how much of that is really to rest your body physically and so forth. And Jim, as a trainer, you know that you have to repair tissue, right? We're up and moving things in our bodies, we're breaking down muscle and so forth. But they said if you actually only had to sleep for the physical part of what we do to ourselves, you'd probably need about maybe like 4 hours of sleep, maybe 6 a night. But that full 7 to 8 is for one other big thing, which is when you actually are awake and you're doing things with your brain, the mitochondria in your body and especially your brain cells are actually producing energy, and the metabolites that come from those things, and they sit around you there. So think of this like the lactic acid of your brain. You know when you stress or you train hard, you get lactic acid? You want to get that out of there because it makes you sore and stiff. It's the byproducts of muscle breakdown. Well, this stuff when it sits around causes nerves to degenerate. And what's sad about this is they say that when you are not sleeping enough, the cells that aren't the ones that do your thinking, but the ones that actually hold your nerves together, are called glial cells. When you're sleeping and going through your REM cycles, they contract to make the metabolites get out of the cells and gets that lactic acid out of there, if you want to call it. It's not lactic acid, but it's like that. And so it sits around there and actually causes the nerves to degenerate. Therefore, trying to catch up on sleep debt on the weekends does not prevent this damage from happening, sadly. Poor sleeping habits can cause both brain damage and brain shrinkage. It can even accelerate the onset of Alzheimer's disease. Sometimes the cruel fate is that with Alzheimer's, people often don't sleep well. So they're actually contributing to even more of this. And then it's actually been linked to, lack of sleep is linked to obesity and hormone alterations as well too. So it can promote things like type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, and things like that. So again, lack of sleep, it can make your brain go away actually faster. Number 3, reduce or eliminate exercise and live a sedentary lifestyle. That sounds crazy, right? Doctors are always trying to get their patients to do 2 things: eat right and exercise. There's a lot more to it than just simply saying those things, which we teach in this class, or other classes that we have. But while lack of sleep can lead to brain shrinkage, those who exercise tend to have the least amount of brain shrinkage over time. In fact, exercise is the only thing that we know of that can actually help you generate new neurons that you may have lost. It's called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. And so that material, when your brain makes it, actually leads to new neurons, and your brain will actually stick those where you're losing neurons the most and need them the most. But if you're not moving, you're not getting that. You're not producing enough of that hormone to produce new neurons in your body, and therefore, you actually start to lose brain tissue. So not only that, but exercise actually causes your brain to grow, which is pretty cool. Okay? Number 4, become and remain depressed. Of course, this sounds silly. Who wants to be, Eeyore, dragging through the day, woe is me, that kind of thing. But if you truly are clinically depressed and stay that way, your hippocampus, there's this brain that actually is involved in forming memories and emotions and memory. This causes a loss of emotional behavioral function. So what happens is, yeah, Michael, if you take that out, that'd be great. The problem is that it causes you to actually not be able to regulate those things well. Therefore, you start to lose memory along with it too. And so here you have people who are actually chronically agitated and also forgetting things, which is not good. So the best thing you can do is make sure that you're doing things. And one of the best things you can do to get over being depressed is, guess what? Exercise. Two things in one. You get up and move. It's hard to stay depressed when you're moving your body intelligently. The problem is that when you feel depressed, do you feel like moving? Typically not. So you almost have to force yourself to do it. Like just get out and just move. Just get out and walk, right? Okay, number 5, reduce B vitamins in your diet, okay? How would you do that? Well, if you are under lots of stress, you drink a lot, you avoid green vegetables, and avoid grass-fed meat, you're gonna get low levels of vitamin B. And vitamin B, pretty much the whole vitamin B group, if you look at their deficiencies, they're all neurological in nature. Okay, there's everything from conditions called beriberi and different things like this that are actually cause neurological problems. According to latest research, people with high levels of vitamin B12 were most likely to score, B12 deficiency were scoring low on cognitive tests, and they also have smaller brain volume that suggests that vitamin B12 can actually cause brain shrinkage. So the B vitamin group is extremely important. They're found in organic meats and also green vegetables for sure, and made worse by stress and drinking excessively too. So we want to make sure we don't have those things if you want to save your brain. High doses of B6, B8, and B12 in combination were very effective in improving schizophrenic symptoms. Taking low doses was not helpful. How do you know when you're getting enough B vitamins? A good rule of thumb is they actually have in both B50s and B100s, get a good one you can absorb. And you want to make sure that the folic acid and the B12 are in the form of what's called the methylated form. Because if you carry a certain gene, which about 50% of us have, you cannot absorb the cheaper version. So look for methylcobalamin and so forth. But if you take it and you start to notice that your urine is turning a little bit bright yellow, then you're getting enough. That means you're having a little bit of spillover. If your urine remains at the normal kind of a light color, you're probably not getting enough. Niacin B3 can actually be a key treatment for psychological disorders, including schizophrenia too, which I think is pretty powerful. Okay, number 6, increase your alcohol intake. Now, it sounds crazy, yes, but if you want to shrink your brain, that's what you do. Alcohol actually has an effect on the brain. We know it's one of the first things it does is it affects the inhibitory centers. People become more relaxed. They start talking more and acting crazy and so forth, right? Well, it's because it's affecting the brain. Using MRI studies, when they look at brains, there was a linear negative effect of alcohol consumption on brain volume, which means as alcohol consumption goes up, brain volume goes down. That's a negative linear relationship. They concluded that the brain shrinkage reported was a result of even low to moderate alcohol consumption. So what is low to moderate? Well, I would say if you have like 1 drink a month, we're not concerned here, okay? If you're having 1 or 2 a day, probably a different story, okay? That would be a difference in consumption there too. Now, number 7, load up on prescription painkillers, especially narcotics, things that would be in that category. So here's an example. When people take morphine, even just after 1 month, they can measure as much as 3% of brain shrinkage. That's a lot, right? 3% of your brain and anywhere in your brain is not good. So taking prescription things like this, the narcotic group, that's not good. Number 8, increase your sugar intake. They think that sugar it's very addictive to the brain. The brain loves it for fuel, but it will start to crave it almost like an addiction. And so long-term shrinkage or sugar intake can cause your hippocampus to shrink, which is a classic finding in Alzheimer's disease. It actually is considered to be a hallmark finding there. So high levels of processed sugar, not good for us. And the sad thing is that in the processed food diet, or the standard American food diet, SAD diet, they call it, there's been more sugar going every year. It's starting to level off a little bit because people are asking for foods that don't have added sugar. But they estimate that probably of this, if you walk through the middle of the store, the grocery store, things that actually come in packages that are processed, somewhere between 60 and 80% of those foods actually have some type of added sugar. It may not say sugar specifically, but they'll have some type of carbohydrate that's refined added to it there too. Number 9, increase your intake of trans fats. Okay, that means shop for processed foods. Now these are, once again, are things that you will find only typically in the middle of the store. They have long shelf lives, and they'll say things like partially hydrogenated sunflower oil or canola oil or things like this. They're solids at room temperature. What happens is they will take an unsaturated fat, which would be like something like like a seed oil, like sunflower, safflower, and so forth, which aren't great for us anyway. They're pro-inflammatory, and they superheat it and they pump that thing full of hydrogen, and it makes the carbon chain flip. So microscopically, the hydrogen moves to the other side of the thing, and this type of fat Saturated fat is what we would find like in meat. It's if you cook something in a pan and it cools off, you'll see bacon grease become like hardened. Okay, that's what we call a saturated fat. It's hard at room temperature. Unsaturated fat is like the good kind that you'd find in omega-3s would be the like fish oil and so forth. The ones of these that aren't so good for us are the seed oils. But trans fats are not found anywhere in nature. They're foreign to your body. And what your body does is it tries to use them if it can, but it also tries to get rid of it as a toxin. And guess where it ends up at, sadly? Either it ends up making your brain, your brain, essentially your cells, the walls turn to wax. They become impermeable to getting toxins out and good stuff in. And number two is they start getting stuck in your arteries. Okay, this is the kind of thing you end up seeing in plaques and arteries. So your body just puts them right there too. And so we start having issues with strokes, high blood pressure, heart disease, and so forth. So trans fats are found in fast foods, processed foods, margarine, shortening, chips, pastries that flake, and then certainly fried foods and many popular convenience foods. So again, if it comes in a box and you see, hydrogenated anything in there, partially hydrogenated anything, they actually have made those things into trans fats. Run away from those things. They're not good for us. Here's the research for that one there too. Number 9B, decrease your intake of healthy unprocessed foods. Why would I tell you to do that? Well, if you want to shrink your brain, eating less fruits and vegetables is going to get you there. Okay? These foods are chock full of good stuff for us. They actually have things that are, like I mentioned before, how important vitamin B's are. Vitamin C for antioxidant activity, D for protecting your brain, E for antioxidant factors, and omega-3s to deflame your brain. You want your brain being made of omega-3s. It's a good thing there. Those people are found to have larger, healthier brains than their junk food eating counterparts. Those nutrients are found, guess what? Vegetables, fruit, fish, and raw nuts and seeds. These are things that you just find in nature. Most of those things, there's one step from the picking to you eating it, right? You buy it, you wash it, and you eat it. Notice how that's unprocessed, right? It shows up on the plant that way. God made it for you that way. It has all those things in there. In fact, the darker the berries you see these things, the more antioxidant rich those things are. But anything that's very colorful is going to be good for you. It doesn't mean that potatoes are bad for you or bananas are bad for you, but they don't have a lot of those rich things in there for you. The darker the fruit or vegetable, the better it is for you in most cases, all right? Number C, run as far as you can from Mediterranean foods. Now, of all the diets in the world you could eat, one of the most healthy ones are the ones that you find in the area around the Mediterranean. Like they would eat those in Greece and Turkey and the things that are found there, because they eat the things that are found in that local area, such as certain seeds and nuts and avocados and olive oil. Those things actually promote larger brain volume and cortical thickness when measured by MRI, which means if you do an MRI of somebody from that region, compared to other parts of the world, you're going to see a more full, developed, and healthy brain, because the foods they're eating have the good fats in them that actually help them build a better brain, which is incredible. Okay, and 9D, don't eat any servings of these foods, okay? Now, these are, I'm of course kidding here, but these things right here, this is an anti-inflammatory thing in curry. Those have lots of great things that protect your nerves. Celery actually reduces inflammation. Broccoli and cauliflower, same type of thing. They have chock full of good things. Walnuts have omega-3s and antioxidants. Garbanzo beans contain magnesium. Red meat contains B12. Blueberries are full of things, especially something called lutein, which is good for your eyes and is an antioxidant. And the healthy fats found in chicken that are allowed to run around, all coconut oil, grass-fed butter, wild salmon, and so forth, all those things would make a better brain. So if you want to make your brain go away, avoid these things like the plague. If you want to make your brain last longer, look for those things and put them in your diet. And what's great is coconut oil is one of the best things you can actually cook in. It has one of the highest flash points, which means you can heat it and it won't turn brown. Any oil that you cook in, it makes the oil turn brown. Like olive oil has a low flash point. It's actually starting to oxidize and turning something that's not good for your body. So coconut oil is what I like to actually cook things in. And then 90, if you're a male, eat more non-fermented soy. The problem with soy is, especially raised in our area where we spray these things, is they contain lots of things that are actually things that can actually mess with men's hormone system. There's things called phytoestrogens, phthalates. I won't go into all the detail here, but there are things that are either pro-inflammatory or anti-masculine, and that makes men get kind of weird in the head when you start actually having testosterone reduction and so forth. So rather, it's better to actually have food that is made with soy that's fermented and changed, such as things like tempeh and miso and things like that. Number 10, strive to be overweight and obese. Okay, MRI imaging has shown that people actually have larger body volume, typically have smaller brains. Just what it comes down to is the blood that might be going to actually help feed your brain with oxygen and nutrients is actually going elsewhere to sustain your body, right? So those people who are obese have significantly smaller white matter volumes than their counterparts. The white matter, you always talk about, you hear some parents tell their kids, use your gray matter, use your brain for something more than holding your ears apart, right? Well, the white matter is the stuff that's deep in your brain that allows the hemispheres to talk to each other. It's the fast part of your brain. Really fast stuff like reflexes are there. Athletes who are training reflexes and building muscle memory That's actually what you're building. The gray matter is like the slow part. It's where our reflexes and our reaction times and processing are. And so if you actually have that shrunk, you're not going to be able to have those things working for you as much as there too. Number 11, try promoting type 2 diabetes through your lifestyle. Now, obviously, type 2 diabetes is becoming increasingly a scourge in our world, and they're seeing it in younger and younger kids and more people. Type 2 diabetes ages your brain about 5 times faster than normal. Some of those common findings you'll see is that your brain can no longer metabolize glucose for it. So your brain, while it has sugar in and around it, it actually cannot use it. That's the problem, is that insulin resistance means insulin is coming in and trying to get things into the cell, and it's not working. So your pancreas starts to overwork and make more and more of it. Well, eventually what happens is your pancreas just gets tired and says, I'm done, I can't do it anymore. And so that becomes a problem. Now, thankfully, your brain can use other types of things for food. One of the few things is it can actually use coconut oil. Medium chain triglycerides found in coconut oil will be helpful. But they actually are calling Alzheimer's disease, they're calling it type 3 diabetes. So type 1 is you're not making any insulin. Number 2 is you're not getting insulin to get sugar into your cells. Type 3 diabetes is you're not getting glucose into your brain. And that's when people start getting brain fog, they can't think well. All these things that would happen to occur here. And so please don't do this, but if you want to shrink your brain, promote that. Number 12, remain in chronic pain and avoid chiropractic care. Now that's a funny one, isn't it? Here's a chiropractor telling you not to get chiropractic care. Well, if you want to have your brain go away, avoid chiropractic, okay? What happens is that your brain is always rewiring itself. We often think that you develop your brain from about age 0 to maybe 18 to 25, and then at that point you're just trying to avoid losing it. Believe it or not, even now you're actually having your brain change things. Now, what's the old saying? It's hard to teach old dogs new tricks, right? Because we get kind of set in our ways, but you can learn something new at any age, really. And what we're trying to do is help your brain do that. Well, one of the ways your brain actually learns to do things, if you're in chronic pain, do you think your body likes being in chronic pain? Is that a good thing? But it's a very unpleasant experience. So guess what it does? It will start to pull neurons from those areas that have to do with sensation and brain and body input and reroute them to other places. They actually have been estimated that a person in chronic pain, which is defined as having pain for more than 3 months at a time without change, they lose approximately 1.3 centimeters of gray matter per year, which would be the equivalent of 10 to 20 years aging with a normal brain. People who actually do not live in chronic pain, who have good movement patterns, under chiropractic care and so forth, their brains go away at a super slow rate, but you're losing like a square centimeter or more of brain tissue every year that you're in chronic pain. Chiropractic adjustments alleviate low back pain, just as one example, and help brain shrinkage. Now, chiropractic is for a lot more than that, don't get me wrong. Chiropractic is about keeping your nervous system working at its highest level so your brain can always talk to your body's tissues. But one of the things that we do affect positively are pain syndromes, and when you have less pain, your brain works better. There's other ways it affects this. By getting adjusted, you make the cingulate cortex of your brain region, which helps with learning emotions, that actually is increased. The part that has to do with proprioception, being aware where you're at in space, posture, movement, and emotions, is improved. It's improved. The somatosensory cortex, where you perceive pain, is actually reduced. And lastly, amylase is something that has to do with your cortisol levels. When you get adjusted, they can actually measure your cortisol levels and see it goes down almost immediately. Cortisol is the fight or flight hormone. Most of us, because of the pace of life that we have right now, we are seeing more and more people living in cortisol stress. There's a test we can do for it, and what's great is getting adjusted actually makes those things lower. So that to me is really cool, that chiropractic care actually has all these powerful nerve things, not just the nerves that leave the spinal column, but the nerves that actually go to your brain and tell it what to do as well too. So by being here, guys, you're doing one of the best things you can do for yourself to keep from losing your brain. Now, last one would be, and this is one, Jim, you probably saw a fair amount when you were working as a trainer. If you want to lose your brain fast, get it your head knocked around a little bit, okay? So subject your brain to repeated unprotected trauma. There's a study done on this one where they actually took 14 retired soccer players who had played an average of 26 years, and of them, 6 of them had concussions, and they had dementia for 30 years until their death. And what they showed was repeated traumatic brain injuries cause something called chronic traumatic encephalopathy. This is what that guy discovered when he was studying the NFL players, that when you're repeatedly concussed in that brain, you jostle your head against the skull, or have your brain change its direction so fast that you get a shearing injury of your nerves, there are some things that happen. There's 2 things you get. They're called beta amyloid plaques and tau proteins, which leads to age-related mental decline, dementia, and motor impairment. So meaning that was once a very gifted athlete who could move excessive, now they're kind of walking with a shuffling gait. They can't move very well. They have mood disorders, memory loss, poor executive function. They can't plan their lives, slurred speech, even Parkinson's. And actually what they showed was it was worse if you hit heads with people than actually hitting the ball. Isn't that interesting? And it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? I know that ball's coming in fast, but it's got a little bit of give to it. How much give does a human head have? Not much, right? And these NFL players are lining up across each other, some 250, 300 pounds or more. I think I just saw a guy who actually got picked for the NFL. I think he's actually at 380, okay? That's a big boy coming at you, and every play you're lining up across each other, and boom, boom, boom. If you watch that story about this, the first brain that guy said was Mike Webster, who played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? He was part of the Steel Curtain. These guys were incredible, just blocking. Kind of an undersized guy. He's a center, and the center makes contact pretty much every play. On a run play, he's running into people. If it's a pass play, he's backing up and getting hit, right? And in the latter years of his life, in his early 50s, mid-50s, he actually was having to write directions to get to his kid's house and get back home. He got frustrated when he studied his brain. It was just like his face had been mashed in. And so, there's actually protocols now to not have kids go back in there. I think the biggest problem is you see, with the athletes, what they're getting paid these days. A person has a minor traumatic brain injury, and the doctors are on the list and say, come out and test them out. And there's a high incentive to get them back on the field, because if you're being paid $12 million a year, we don't want you sitting out of the game, right? But there's a definite healing time your brain has to have. And if you don't give it the time there, you're more likely to get what's called second strike syndrome, which means a lesser trauma to your brain causes just the same or worse injury. And that happened to Steve Young, who played for the 49ers. He had so many concussions in a single couple seasons there that he just had to quit, because they said one more could actually either be fatal or you're going to be very seriously impaired. And I think he did the right thing by quitting early, which is unfortunate. Okay. So once again, to shrink your brain, what you start doing? Well, let's eat lots of things like Crisco, okay, trans fats. Let's drink ourselves heavily here. Sit around, cause pain, eat pro-inflammatory foods. Don't make or skip your chiropractic appointments. Sit around, get large, drink heavily, or take lots of prescription drugs. That would be your perfect plan to get there. Okay. These are things you want to stop. If you actually want to have your brain go away, don't do these things, right? Don't eat fruits and vegetables. Don't keep controlling your body weight. Don't sleep well. Don't drink lots of water. Don't keep appointments, right? Don't run. Don't get adjusted. Don't eat healthy foods, and don't do exercises. That'd be your game plan, right? So I'm going to encourage you guys not to do those things if you want to keep your brain. Of course, I'm being silly here, but that's the point. I wanted you to think this through. Like, why would I do those things? We know that movement's good. You think about a day like this. There's only a couple times a year when we actually do all these things at one time. It's typically going to be the holidays, right? Here comes all the goodies. Come on over. We're going to sit around and play games all day. We're inside. It's too cold to go outside. And how do you feel at the end of the day like that? It's been fun, but how do you feel? Kind of gross, right? So there should be some good things in there for us to do that we actually can do. And this would be a great list for people to start with, okay? So if you want to be really snarky about this and really sarcastic, here's what you do. You pick one shrink your brain activity and start doing that daily if possible. And get that one down really well. And then reward yourself every day that you stop doing it. So for example, like one of the worst things you can do is if let's say your goal is to lose weight, what would be the worst kind of reward you could give yourself? Eating food, right? Have some sort of food reward? Well, that's in this case, you would do that. Once you master one brain shrinking activity, then master the next one and so forth. And then share your success with other people and drag them down with you if you can even remember to do that, which is being silly, right? But imagine how it is. Here's what they say is that your life tends to look a lot like the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to be around people, if you want to have a brain that's working well, find people who you admire who say, man, they're doing a lot of good things for themselves. They're moving, they're eating good foods, they're just really doing a good job reducing their stress and supplementing well. Now, of course, my disclaimer is if none of this talk sounds good to you, then please disregard everything I just told you and do what your principal chiropractors advise you to do. So one thing we are very big on, guys, is actually helping people do this stuff. Now, in this class, I can't go to all the things that make up a healthy diet or exercise. But I'm totally willing to have you come to our classes that we teach on those things. We even have people come from the outside who offer really great things in terms of exercise facilities. Like if you like to do whole body workouts, or if you like to do, water-based things or whatever it may be, there are really good things just within 3 miles of where we are practicing. We actually have people who have some incredible programs for nutrition at home and away. Come to those classes, but I'm willing to meet with you one-on-one, but I have to know what your goals are. Okay, and it usually starts with 2 things. One is we do something called a 7-day diet diary. And then number 2 is we have a thing where actually we'll have you monitor your activity, what you're doing for a period of time, and then see how we can actually improve those things, all right? As we say, the choice is yours. Here's Homer Simpson, okay? He's one of the smartest guys. It's so funny. What was he say when he was in school? His English teacher asked him to do a paper. He said, why would you do a paper on English? Why would I even study English? I'm not going to England. Like Homer Simpson was not exactly the brightest guy in the world. Now, on the other hand, Albert Einstein did pretty well for himself, right? The guy who came up with relativity and stuff. I've actually been to Princeton, New Jersey, and seen pictures of his desk the day he died, and he had so many projects going on. Basically, if he'd been able to live another 100 years, I think he'd still be doing the same stuff, just thinking of brilliant ideas. We still use his principles today to put men on the moon and to build things that are like atomic bombs and atomic everything. So he's just a brilliant guy. So I think most of us would say, I'd like to be like this guy. You know, he actually had some of those humane things too. Like he was very much a humanitarian. He was fully aware when he gave the idea of came up with the idea of relativity, that it could be used for great harm. And so he left Germany during World War II and came to the United States. And actually, thanks to him, we actually prevented a really horrific situation happening all over the world. And so I think we should be like him, thoughtful, but also generous and being warm as well, people too. So guys, it's not the end, it is the beginning. This class is just the beginning. What you have to do now is take what I told you and say, what am I going to start with here? Okay? I gave you 13 things in this class you could actually start doing if you wanted to shrink your brain. And I also gave you its counterpart to do something that would be the best thing you could do for yourself. You can do one of two ways. You can either start small, like just pick the most basic things. Say, Dr. Lynn said, I need to eat more fruits and vegetables. Well, I'm eating only one fruit and one vegetable a day. Well, let's try to have you double that. Okay? Start planning your meals around those foods that you know you need to have there and to add the other things that you want to. I'm not saying you have to eat perfectly clean all the time. I'm not saying that at all. But if you can at least eat about 80-20, right? Like 80% stuff you know is going to be good for you, and you can have the 20%, that's totally fine. But start somewhere, or if you need to, start with a big thing. Like let's say you've just not been an exerciser. So let's say for most of your life you've been relatively sedentary. What if you just simply got up and started moving and did something like that? That could be a huge one for you. Because guess what happens when you start exercise? What kind of foods do you crave when you're more active, typically? Do Cheetos sound very good when you're exercising? They really don't. Your body will start craving all sorts of good foods. So I'm simply saying, start somewhere, get that one mastered, and what you find is once the momentum happens with that area, to go to the next category, or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10, is going to be better. But start with one, because those who chase 2 rabbits catch neither. Start with one, okay? With that said, guys, I want to say I'm so thankful you were here tonight. I hope this actually is kind of embedded in your memory now, in your good brains that you're going to be building, right? And then go from here. Let's talk about your successes with these things when I see you in the office next time. Okay? Awesome, guys. Great having you here.